Sex, drugs, and stainless steel. What the hell does a GTO, blow, and a trip back to the future have in common? They are all integral parts of the most 1980s fucking story you can imagine. The story of John Z. DeLorean. Yeah, that DeLorean. When you hear the word DeLorean, the first thing you think of is Marty McFlying his way back to the future with Doc. But the very true story behind the man behind the time-traveling car is even more crazy than the time-traveling car itself. John Z. DeLorean was born in Motor City to immigrant parents who didn't have a whole lot of money. He served in World War II for a few years, and then after the war, he got a degree and sold life insurance in the early 1950s, which he apparently did really good at, but found it boring as fuck, because it's, selling life insurance. And then he ended up working for Chrysler for a little bit, while getting his master's degree from Chrysler. Imagine that. There was a time businesses thought investing in their employees' education was a good thing. After he got his master's, he worked for Chrysler for a year, and then he moved over to Packard, which was a car company that it doesn't exist anymore. And when he got there, he looked at their automatic transmission, and he's like, this thing's a piece of shit. Here, I took your mediocre automatic and made it way fucking better. You're welcome. Packard took note, and in 4 years, DeLorean was head of research and development. But as Ford and GM started price wars to dominate the market, Packard's market share and profitability started to slip. In an attempt to stay competitive, Studebaker and Packard merged. DeLorean was about to move to Studebaker's headquarters in South Bend, Indiana, because they had a badass facility and proving ground. Like, it was fucking legit. It was the perfect place for a head of R&D to be. But sadly, before that happened, the vice president of General Motors, Oliver Kelly, called up John DeLorean and said, I will give you your choice of job at any one of our divisions. And GM had 5 divisions: Buick, Cadillac, Chevrolet, Oldsmobile, and Pontiac. For those of you not into car history, Pontiac back in the day was the shit. So DeLorean took the assistant chief engineering job with Pontiac, which I kind of understand why, but had he stayed, Studebaker may still be around today. But he didn't, and they're not. It was here at Pontiac that John DeLorean would start his meteoric rise to superstardom in a way that few automotive employees ever accomplished. See, John DeLorean just kind of did whatever the fuck he wanted, and it usually ended up working out for him. And he wanted to build a cheap, intermediate car with a big-ass fucking motor because kids like things that are cheap because they have no money, and are also fast and loud because they're children. And some of us never grow out of that. He told his team, alright, we're gonna do the GTO project. You're gonna take a 389 and shove it under the hood of an economy car because even the people at Dodge are gonna need heroes one fucking day. But the executives at GM were like, no. See, we have this policy that says you can't put big motors in little cars because we're dumb. Actually, it was more because GM was always on the brink of being a monopoly and, always trying to avoid undue attention from regulators and legislators. So a lot of times they instituted stupid rules like this to try to play it safe, and playing it safe is not a thing John DeLorean knew how to do. John DeLorean's like, fine, I won't build a car called the GTO with a big badass motor in it. We'll just keep selling the Pontiac Tempest that comes standard with these wimpy, boring ass little motors. And then we may or may not give the Pontiac Tempest a package option that may or may not be called the GTO package that may or may not come with a big badass motor. And that's what he did. And the GM execs were like, fine, but your idea's stupid and you're only allowed to build 5,000 because nobody's going to want to buy them. And then they went and sold 32,000 of them the first year. General Motors immediately changed its tune, the GTO became its own model, and the muscle car was born. This also ended up landing John DeLorean a shiny new promotion, making him the youngest head of a General Motors division ever. And when that happened, he just became a fucking rock star, or at least pretended to be one. He started buying fancy, extravagant shit like Rolexes on the company expense account, dating fucking supermodels. Pretty sure he ended up with 3 ex-wives. He'd leave work early on Thursday, go party all over the country, and then show back up to work hungover on fucking Tuesday. As we moved into the 70s, he grew out his sideburns, started wearing high-collared shirts, started looking like Hyde from That 70s Show. Just straight fucking baller. He was on the cover of magazines, he was mingling with celebrities, and he was still making GM loads of fucking money. So GM made him the head of Chevrolet. Now, going into the 70s, the US automotive market wasn't doing good. DeLorean had told General Motors that they were idiots for allowing European and Japanese car manufacturers to corner the compact car market. Since they wouldn't listen to him and start building more compact cars, he decided he was gonna do what only John DeLorean could do: make a Chevy Vega sexy. He told people repeatedly that the Chevy Vega was the most high-quality car to ever be manufactured. It was not. He told people that it could out-accelerate and out-handle almost any European sports car, which it also could not. But he's John fucking DeLorean. He said it, people believed him, and they bought the Chevy Vega. So GM made him vice president of General Motors. But DeLorean's disenchantment with GM did not subside. Never the one to have a filter, he wrote a speech saying General Motors execs were morons, and then resigned in 1973. And General Motors gave him a fucking Cadillac dealership franchise in fucking Florida as a retirement gift. This, right now, is where the story starts to get crazy. Because this is where John DeLorean evolves into some mix between Elon Musk and Scarface. So he leaves GM and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go start my own car company with blackjack and hookers. So he gets together chassis designers from Lotus and Italian body designers, and on what I can only assume was like a 3-day coke bender, he's like, sports car, okay? Sports car. Ethical sports car. Okay, what is an ethical sports car? Gets good gas mileage, and it's cheap, and stainless steel. Stainless steel what? Fucking everything. Make it all out of stainless steel, and don't paint it, so everybody can see that it's stainless steel. Like a refrigerator from the future. But also gold. What do you mean gold? Like paint it gold? No, make ones out of fucking 24 karat gold. Those ones will not be cheap. No joke, they literally made a few cars that were completely plated in real 24 karat gold. If that's not the most 1980s coke bender shit you've ever heard of, I don't know what is. Also doors that go like this, so it looks like a ninja when it's open. Also fast and good handling and brake. And so they went to work designing it, and John DeLorean went to work being John DeLorean. He started going around all of his rich friends and just being like, give me money so I can build a car. It's gonna be a really cool car. It's gonna have doors that go like this. And they did. Like, Johnny Carson gave him $500,000. So he gets all these investors, he's got a ton of money, and now he's like, I need a place to build these fucking cars. So he goes out and he's like, hey, all of the places, what are you gonna do for me if I come and build my cars in your places? And the UK, for some fucking reason, was like, ooh, pick us. So he goes and he builds the factory in Belfast, Ireland. And this wasn't a super great time to be in Ireland. They basically had like open warfare going on between the Catholics and the Protestants. But whatever, minor details. He's working on getting this car company off the ground, but he's also hemorrhaging money because he's spending tons of money on hookers and blow and just being John DeLorean. And then this investigative reporter wants to write this a really kind of damning story on him about his time at General Motors, and also the fact that he might be wanting to go public with his DeLorean Motor Company, which he was trying to keep secret because his investors would have not been very happy about that. So he calls up this reporter and he's like, don't fucking write it, I'll ruin your career because I know Rupert fucking Murdoch. And then he calls up Rupert Murdoch and he's like, hey, don't let this guy post any stories for any of your companies ever, because he legit knew Rupert fucking Murdoch. For those of you who don't know, Rupert Murdoch is the asshole who owns all of Fox, like everything Fox, which is like half of all fucking media. This reporter ends up having to publish his story in the Daily Mirror, which is a smaller publication. And Margaret Thatcher reads it, who is one of the worst human beings to ever live, and also was like the Prime Minister of the UK. And so then she reads it and she's like, fuck you, John, we're not giving you any more money. John's like, shit, I need to come up with some more money and fast. What should I do? I know, I'll just become an international drug trafficker. And then he goes and he buys like $24 million worth of cocaine from an undercover FBI agent, as one does, and he gets arrested, obviously. Then he goes to court and he's like, they entrapped me, and the jury's like, yeah, not guilty. But he was still basically out of money. So he pushes up the timetable to start getting the cars delivered so he can start making money by selling cars. The only problem was that the cars were trash. Complete piles of shit. Johnny Carson's car broke down in the first couple of miles. And on top of them just being bad quality because they were rushed to market, they were also just bad. Like, they couldn't make the entire window roll down because it would have made the door too heavy, so they made this like tiny little fucking window that rolled down that you probably couldn't get a McDonald's bag through. And its little shitty ass Pugo Renault Volvo motor was like 190 horsepower. Had a fucking 0 to 60 time of like 10.5 seconds. Like 2 seconds slower than the same year Corvette, which was also like one of the slowest Corvettes ever. And it cost 11 grand more than the Corvette. Yeah, so nobody wanted them because they sucked. And the whole thing just went like belly up after the first year of production. And as a result, DeLorean ended up with ex-wife number 3 and bankruptcy. And it was just a couple short years before Doc Brown turned one of the worst cars ever built into one of the most iconic movie mobiles to ever grace the silver screen. Had John had just a little bit better money management, that movie magic may have made DeLorean a motors mogul. But now we get to see the fun comparisons to Elon Musk, as he just released his underwhelming stainless steel Cybertruck that looks like what you'd get if a DeLorean starred in Super Size Me, all while he painfully and publicly runs a social media company into the ground. But even though the DeLorean of fiction far exceeded anything it ever achieved in reality, the reality of the story of the DeLorean is certainly stranger than fiction.